Alright, expression tutorial version 2. Now I'm just basically going to look at one way of formatting something in an expression today. And it is as follows. You state the output, equals, state your argument, something is equal to, less than, greater than, put a question mark. If the argument is true, what goes in this place here before the colon is output. And if the statement here is false, this information is output. Now let's look at an example. Alright. Thrust is our output. We only have one in and one out in this expression that we're about to do. The in is R, which is a ranger. I could just label it R. Remember, capital. All ins and outs must have a capital letter at the beginning. Then it doesn't matter. You can put letters and other numbers. It's pretty open. So, in is R, which is going to be the ranger, and out is thrust. I could have wrote T, but I wrote thrust anyway. So, thrust is equal to 100 when this is true. When the ranger is less than, little L, see it's almost like the shape of a squished L. Ranger is less than 75. Now, if the ranger is not less than 75, 0 is going to go and be the thrust. So let's actually write that now. Scrolling. Expression. New expression. File name is irrelevant. We don't have to save it. Input. R. Output. Thrust. Now, if I wrote thrust 3432, I have to put that exact same spelling and the exact same name in every one of the lines I use it in. So if you write thrust, if you write out a big word, if you write out ranger, you write out something else, you have to make sure it's spelled right or you will fail. Here. Thrust is equal to parentheses, and I usually do the end part first. Question mark, 100, straight up, no, not semicolon, regular colon, and 0. Now you don't have to make it 0, you can make it negative 100. Make the thruster go backwards when this is not true. So it's R less than 75. We're done. Process doesn't do anything. Validate, it's validated. Let's stick it on the board and wire it up. Things that are going to be outputted get wired from the device to the expression. So this is an output. This thruster going to go to here. It turns on because I haven't given it the ranger yet. And inputs, you point at the expression, it'll switch through inputs. It's only one, ranger. And then we're done. Now here's the ranger. That's the distance. It's at 97 right now. So I'm going to slide this over. And as soon as it gets under 75, thruster activates. Deactivates. Oh, never wired up the thrust screen. There you go. That's all done with one line. Now, if you wanted to change that line to make it a negative thrust when you don't have it in range, you just change it right here to negative 100 or negative 1501. Now it's at negative 1501 because it's above 75. 100, 1501, 100, 1501. And that is real annoying. Shut the sound off. And of course it resets, so there you go. Alright. Now, if you wanted to build what I just did, this one line, if you wanted to do that in chips, like some people like to do, this is what it would take. You would, actually this doesn't do it. I've discovered this. You would think you just need a less than and a multiply. But that doesn't work. And a constant value. Because you would say, if ranger is less than 75, this would output a 1, and you'd multiply that by 100, and you'd get 100 thrust, like we just had. But there's your problem. This will default to 0. because I tell it to. When that's not true, default to 0. This, the ranger is outputting a 0. So it's trying to say, is the ranger less than 75? And of course it is. It's 0. So I couldn't use a less than. I'd have to use an is in range, and I have to give it probably 0.1 to 75, and then it would be true. But everything else would remain the same. Instead of it just being a less than, it would be a more ins and outs is in range. Little lesson in this: if you've ever seen an expression and you've seen two equal signs, this is the difference. This line says the ranger is equal to 0. It is equal to 0. This line asks, is the ranger equal to 0? That's what the two equal signs mean. And an example of that is here. If instead of just the ranger as an input, we also had a button and an advanced input with, I don't know, 0 to 100, and the output was still thrust, you could write this. Thrust is equal, again, to 100, but look at the statement. Now the ranger has to be greater than 75, and, ampersand is end, the button has to be equal to, is it equal to 1? It's asking the question. Button equal to 1. It's not saying button equal to 1, it's asking the question because there's two equal signs. Now what that means is, if you have a button and it's toggled off to 0, and the range is greater than 75, you're still outputting a 0. Toggle the button on, and the range is greater than 75, it's outputting 100. Now here's the fun part. You put an asterisk next to it, which means multiply, and you put the advanced input in that same line, just like that. And that means it would output 100 times advanced input, which you're controlling with your keypad. So it would be 100 times 1, 2, 3, and it would output, this thrust would be representative of 100 times advanced input, and would output that. I could show you that if you want me to build it real quick. Hold on. Alright. I've put this line in an expression right here. We need a ranger. How did I forget the ranger? Obviously you need more of a range than 75 or this won't work. So we can set it to 100. Output distance. Ignore world, show beam. You'll get the settings. So here's the ranger. The expression asks for it. There it is. The thruster needs someplace to go. Wait. Thruster has an output, that's the only output. You stare at the expression. Switch, there's button it's asking for. Switch again, it's asking for the advanced input, which is right there and goes from 0 to 100. Now, I have to be greater than 75. So there I am. I'm meeting one of the requirements of this expression. Ranger is greater than 75. That's true right now. I'm at 84. But the button is 0. The button has to equal 1. So let's hit the button. Too far away. And now I'll back out again. And there I am. I'm meeting both requirements of this line. The ranger is greater than 75 and the button is equal to 1. However, we're multiplying 100 times the advanced input, which is still at 0. If I raise the advanced input, there you go. The thruster is not wired. Why isn't the thruster wired? Oh, it is wired. It just, the animation's broken. Alright. Yeah, there. There's what the thruster's doing. I'm feeding it a 7 times 100. It's outputting 700 thrust. And that'll follow that exactly. It's doing all the multiplication inside the expression. Step out. Step in. Toggle the button. Just doesn't matter. Come on. There you go. So this expression is doing a lot of work for me right now. It's looking at 3 inputs. The ranger, the button, and the advanced input. And it's doing all the math. It's deciding whether this is true, outputting 100 or 0. It's multiplying the answer times the advanced input. And that is all I want to go into in this lesson. We will go over more tomorrow.